You think you're in control, don't you? You think the voice in your head belongs to you. But it doesn't. It never did. Beneath your calm gestures and careful words, something ancient watches. It moves when you sleep. It whispers when you think you're alone. Carl Jung called it the psyche, not your mind, but the vast, invisible organism that thinks through you, breathes through you, dreams through you. And if you ignore it long enough, it consumes you. Every choice you make, every emotion you suppress, feeds it, until one day you wake up and you're no longer the one deciding. You've become the puppet, and the psyche holds the strings. Your smile becomes a mask. Your kindness becomes strategy. You wear yourself like a costume stitched from fear. This is the slow infection of the unconscious, and it's happening inside you right now. But you can still wake up. You can still see what's pulling you apart before it's too late. Comment below. I am awake within. Say it again. Feel it vibrate through your bones, because this isn't just psychology. This is survival. And if you listen closely, you might just escape the trap before it tightens. Number 1. The hidden war within. You have been fighting a war you never signed up for. A war not waged in cities or skies, but in the caverns of your own mind. Carl Jung called it the conflict between the conscious and the unconscious, the endless struggle between what you think you are and what you truly are. You wake up each day thinking you're steering your life, yet something deeper steers you. The words you choose, the people you love, the habits you can't break, they're all shaped by invisible hands within your psyche. You sense it sometimes, don't you? That strange pull toward destruction, that fascination with pain, that sudden fear that has no source. It's not madness. It's your unconscious trying to speak through symbols, dreams, impulses, but you've built walls around it, denying what you don't understand. Every denial becomes a weapon turned against you. The parts of you you refuse to see start attacking from the dark. That's why you feel torn, because you are. Half your army fights under your name. The other half hides under the flag of your shadow. And every day, you lose a little more ground. The tragedy is, you still think it's life doing this to you. It's not. It's you doing this to yourself. You have divided your kingdom and crowned the unseen as king. You are possessed by the very forces you tried to bury. Yet this realization is the beginning of your freedom. Once you can look at your darkness and not flinch, you begin to take back command. That's the path Jung spoke of. Not perfection, but integration. The moment you name the enemy, it stops hiding. So ask yourself, which part of you is really in control right now? Is it your will or your wound? Speak the truth into the silence and watch how the shadows react. Comment below, I see the war within. Say it again, louder this time. Because awareness is the first strike in this hidden war. You are not losing your mind. You are finally meeting it. Number 2, possession by the unconscious. It begins quietly. You start reacting before you can think. You speak words you don't remember choosing. You hurt people you swore you'd never harm. Something inside you hijacks the wheel, and you watch from behind your own eyes as it drives your life into the storm. Carl Jung called this possession by the unconscious, when forgotten emotions, buried traumas, and ancient archetypes rise from the depths to claim their due. You are not yourself in those moments. You are the echo of everything you've refused to face. The shadow doesn't knock politely. It storms in, wearing the mask of rage, jealousy, addiction, obsession, and you obey it like a god. That's the terrifying part. It feels like you, but it isn't. It's the fragments of your psyche that were exiled from awareness, now returning to balance the scales. Jung warned that the unconscious will rule you if you refuse to make it conscious. You think you have free will, but until you confront these forces, you're nothing but a vessel for forgotten storms. You've seen it in others. the calm face that suddenly erupts, the smile that hides centuries of grief. That's not personality, that's possession. Every human carries within them a hidden cathedral of voices, ancestors, fears, memories, desires, each waiting for their turn to speak. When one of them takes over, you call it a bad day. But Jung would call it an uprising of the unconscious. The psyche is not evil, it's nature. It demands wholeness. And if you keep resisting, it will break you to heal you. You cannot silence it. You can only listen. The moment you acknowledge it, its claws retract. The moment you observe, you reclaim your sovereignty. So breathe, look inward. The next time your anger rises, ask, whose voice is this? The next time despair whispers, ask, who taught me this language? You will begin to see patterns older than memory itself. Comment below, I reclaim my mind. Write it again, carve it into your awareness. Because the moment you name the force, it loses power. You were never weak. You were simply unconscious, but not anymore. Number 3, the complex becomes the master. You think you make choices, but in truth, your choices are often made for you by something far older than reason. Carl Jung called them complexes, autonomous fragments of your psyche that carry emotional charge, memories, and stories of pain. They live inside you like invisible programs, each one waiting for its trigger. And when the trigger comes, you disappear. The calm you becomes the angry you. The rational you becomes the desperate you. You tell yourself, that wasn't me. But it was. It was the part of you that you've refused to meet. Complexes are not your enemies. They are split-off children of your mind, abandoned when you couldn't handle their truth. Each complex is a wound that learned to speak, and when ignored, it begins to command. That's why you keep repeating the same mistakes, falling for the same people, reacting to the same pain. You are not living freely, you are orbiting around your wounds. Jung wrote that a man does not possess complexes. Complexes possess him. They act through your voice, your gestures, your emotions. They make you say what you don't mean and destroy what you love most. You feel it, that rush of heat when you lose control, that trembling silence after the damage is done. That is a complex feeding. It drains your life force to keep its old narrative alive. But awareness severs the chain. The moment you recognize the pattern, the moment you say, it's not me, it's my complex, you create distance. You return from possession to observation. You begin to reclaim command over the inner machinery, so the next time the same chaos returns, don't fight it blindly. Name it, watch it, let it unravel. You will start to see that your demons are merely your unhealed stories asking to be heard. Comment below, I command my psyche. Write it again, not as a wish, but as an order. Because the moment you stop identifying with the complex, you become the observer, and the observer is untouchable. The complex loses its throne, and the master returns. You. Number 4. Carl Jung's warning, the shadow feeds. The shadow never dies, it only waits. In the dim corridors of your mind, it feeds on every lie you tell yourself, every suppressed thought, every unspoken truth, every smile that hides resentment. That's food for the shadow. Carl Jung warned that whatever you refuse to bring into the light will eventually control you from the dark. You think your anger is gone because you swallowed it. You think your envy vanished because you smiled instead. But energy doesn't disappear. It mutates. It becomes sharp, secret, and hungry. The shadow is patient. It doesn't scream. It whispers. It hides in your virtue, in your compassion, in your righteousness. It wears the mask of good intentions and convinces you that you're pure. That's how it grows, by pretending to be you. And when it's strong enough, it takes the throne. You've seen it before. The moral preacher caught in scandal, the kind soul who suddenly explodes, the healer who wounds others behind closed doors. They didn't fall overnight. Their shadows were simply starving, waiting for the right moment to feast. Jung called this psychic inflation. When your light becomes so blinding you can no longer see your darkness, you become your own deception. But there's another way. The moment you turn inward and face the filth, the fear, the jealousy, the hate, you begin to reclaim your power. You strip the shadow of its disguise. You see it for what it is, not a monster, but the orphaned part of your soul, the one that was never loved. When you meet it with awareness, it stops fighting. It stops feeding, because it no longer needs to. Integration is starvation for the shadow's hunger. That's what Jung meant when he said, "One does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious." So look behind your virtues, examine your smiles, find the serpent coiled beneath the halo. Comment below, "I see my shadow." Say it again, slowly. Let it echo through your chest. Because seeing your darkness is not corruption, it's courage. Only those who descend into their own night ever rise whole again. And only those who feed their shadow with awareness stop being devoured by it. Number 5, the mask that lies to you. You wear it every day. That smile, that tone, that perfect image you've crafted to survive. Carl Jung called it the persona, the mask you present to the world. It's not evil, it's necessary. It helps you function, belong, communicate, but somewhere along the way, you forgot it was a mask. You began to believe it was you. And that's when the corruption begins. The persona, once your servant, becomes your prison. You start filtering truth to maintain appearances. You silence pain to seem strong. You fake humility to avoid envy. You even love strategically. Never too much, never too real. The world applauds the version of you that doesn't exist. But behind the applause, the real you suffocates. Jung warned that when the persona dominates, the soul retreats. You become hollow, efficient but empty, visible but unseen. You chase validation like oxygen because without it the mask falls apart. But here's the truth. Your mask fears most. Authenticity is stronger than perfection. The real you is messy, wounded, radiant, terrifying, and it's starving for air. The moment you dare to take off the mask, the shadow will rush in, the pain will roar, and the lies will crumble. It will feel like dying, but it's actually birth. Because every false identity must burn before the true self can emerge. Jung said, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are." That means breaking every disguise you've built to protect the ego. It means facing rejection, misunderstanding, and silence, and standing firm anyway. You will lose people. You will lose comfort. But you will find your center. And once you've found that, no one can touch you. The mask lies to keep you small. The self whispers to make you whole. Choose the whisper. Comment below, "I remove the mask." Say it out loud. Feel the tremor in your voice, the resistance in your chest. That's your ego shaking. Let it. Because when the mask falls, the light that emerges isn't fragile. It's fire. The kind that burns illusions to ash and illuminates everything you truly are. Number 6, the fall of the ego. This is where it breaks. The ego, your proud little general, finally cracks under the weight of the forces it tried to command. Carl Jung called it the fall, the necessary collapse of the illusion that you are the master of your mind. Until now, you've been clinging to control, believing that if you just stay calm, think rationally, stay positive, you can keep the chaos out. But the psyche doesn't obey your rules. It obeys its own. The unconscious is older than civilization, older than language, older than you. And when it decides to rise, it does so like an ocean swallowing a matchstick. You feel it as anxiety, as despair, as the sense that your life no longer belongs to you. But that collapse, that trembling surrender, is not punishment. It's initiation. Jung wrote that there is no birth of consciousness without pain. The ego must die for the self to live. You are not losing your identity, you're shedding it. Everything you thought you were, the names, the roles, the masks, they were scaffolds built to contain your becoming. Now they are burning. And it's terrifying, because the ego measures safety by control. But freedom demands chaos. When you finally stop resisting, when you let the wave break over you instead of fighting it, something begins to emerge, silent, ancient, unmovable. That's your deeper self, the one untouched by panic, untouched by praise, untouched by fear. The ego calls it death, the soul calls it return. So let it fall. Let it all fall. Every story you told about who you are, let it collapse into the dark. Comment below. I let the ego fall. Write it as a ritual, a declaration of surrender and strength. Because once the ego breaks, the psyche stops fighting you. It begins to rebuild you from within, not as a puppet, but as a vessel of awareness. That's the paradox Jung revealed. You must drown to learn how to breathe. You must lose everything false to find what cannot be lost. This is the threshold. Cross it. Number 7. The archetype possession. When the ego falls, the archetypes awaken. The ancient patterns that have lived inside humanity since the dawn of thought begin to move within you. Carl Jung called them the gods within, forces that once ruled myth now speaking through your instincts. You start to feel larger than life, the hero, the martyr, the victim, the savior, each taking turns wearing your skin. That's archetypal possession. The psyche, stripped of its fragile ego, is now flooded by energies that are cosmic in scale but personal in consequence. You begin to live symbols instead of stories. You find yourself in battles that feel eternal, loves that feel fated, fears that feel divine. You think you're special, but you're simply inhabited by an idea older than civilization. Jung warned that when a person identifies with an archetype, they cease to be human and become a mask for the collective unconscious. That's how madness begins. Not the kind the world sees, but the silent collapse of boundaries inside the soul. You start to mistake intuition for prophecy, emotion for truth, impulse for destiny. It's intoxicating, isn't it? To feel chosen, heroic, unstoppable. But remember, every god demands sacrifice. When you are possessed by the hero, you lose your peace. When you are possessed by the victim, you lose your power. When you are possessed by the lover, you lose your balance. And when you are possessed by the savior, you lose yourself. The key is not to destroy these forces, but to host them consciously. You are not meant to be the archetype. You are meant to contain it. That's individuation, the art of letting the divine energies of the psyche move through you without owning you. When you recognize the pattern, you regain command. You become the still point in the storm, the silent witness behind every god that speaks. Comment below, I contain the archetype. Say it again, this time as an affirmation, not a defense. You are not the hero. You are the awareness watching the hero rise and fall. That's your power, the ability to see without becoming. Once you hold that awareness, no archetype can possess you again. You are no longer a vessel. You are the self-awakening. Number 8. The mirror of the self. There comes a moment when the storm quiets, when the voices fade and the chaos that once tore through your mind begins to fall into a strange, sacred silence. That's when you meet it. The self. Not the personality you wear, not the name you answer to, but the eternal center of your psyche that Carl Jung described as the organizing principle of the whole. It watches. It waits. It has been there since before your ego ever learned to say I. Meeting the self is not blissful. It's blinding, because it holds both the light and the darkness, the saint and the serpent, the beauty and the horror of what you truly are. You see your potential and your destruction reflected in one single mirror, and you realize They were never separate. This is the moment Jung called the confrontation with the self. It's not about perfection. It's about wholeness. You finally understand that every sin, every failure, every wound was not punishment. It was invitation. The psyche was never trying to break you. It was trying to wake you. And now, for the first time, you stand between two worlds, the conscious and the unconscious, no longer at war. You can feel the pulse of both, the calm awareness of your higher nature and the primal fire of your shadow, moving together like two lungs breathing in rhythm. This is integration. You are no longer possessed. You are aligned. The self doesn't demand control. It demands surrender. It asks you to become a vessel of awareness, to observe everything without collapsing into it. You don't need to fight your thoughts anymore. You only need to see them. You don't need to destroy your darkness. You need to own it. That's what makes you untouchable. Not purity, but presence. Comment below. I face myself. Write it as a vow, because this is the mirror that never lies. Once you've looked into it, you can never go back to blindness. The self is not your salvation, it's your reality. It does not forgive, because it never condemned. It simply watches, endlessly patient, waiting for you to remember that it was you all along. Number 9. The rebirth through awareness. You have died many times before, but this time it's different. This time you die consciously. The illusions fall away like burned paper, and for the first time, you can see what was always underneath, awareness itself. Carl Jung called this the rebirth, not a return to innocence, but an awakening into wholeness. You begin to realize that suffering was never the enemy. It was the sculptor shaping your consciousness through pain. Every heartbreak, every failure, every moment you thought would destroy you was carving you toward clarity. Awareness doesn't save you from darkness. It allows you to walk through it without fear. You start to move differently, slower, quieter, with intent. The noise of the world still roars, but it no longer enters you. You see how everyone around you is still trapped in their own psychic storms, shouting through their projections, bleeding through their masks, possessed by forces they can't name. But you've learned to stand still in the fire. You watch the chaos move, and you remain unmoved. Jung wrote that only awareness transforms, and now you understand why. It's not willpower that frees you, it's observation. The moment you see, really see what's happening inside you, the unconscious loses its hold. The psyche stops being a battlefield and becomes a dialogue. You no longer fight your demons, you listen to them. You no longer chase meaning, you embody it. This is rebirth. Not a moment of glory, but a quiet resurrection. You are no longer seeking the light. You are the light that sees. Comment below. I am reborn through awareness. Say it softly, as if speaking to your own soul. Feel the truth of it settle beneath your skin. Because once awareness enters, there is no return to blindness. You cannot unsee your depth. You cannot unhear the voice of your own psyche, and you wouldn't want to. This is the price of awakening, to carry the weight of clarity in a world that worships illusion. But it's also your liberation. The self now moves through you like breath, calm, watchful, eternal. The storm is still there, but it no longer owns you. Number 10, becoming untouchable.
You have walked through fire, and it did not consume you. You faced your shadow, and it bowed before you. Now you stand where few ever reach, at the still point of awareness, where nothing external can wound what is eternal within. This is what Carl Jung meant by individuation. Becoming whole, not perfect. You are no longer fragments pretending to be a person. You are the totality observing itself. The world will still test you. People will still project their darkness onto you, call you names, misunderstand your silence. But now none of it enters you. You no longer absorb their poison because you have met your own. You no longer chase approval because you've seen how false it is. You no longer run from pain because you understand its purpose. You've turned every scar into sight. You've made peace with the creature that once terrified you. The psyche which once ruled you now serves you, not as a slave but as a companion. This is true power, not control, not dominance, but equilibrium. You walk through chaos untouched because you carry the center within. Jung said, "The self is both the goal and the guide." That means you were never lost. You were only asleep. Now you wake. You can feel it, can't you? That strange calm beneath your skin. The quiet certainty that you no longer need to prove, perform, or pretend. You are not your thoughts, not your fears, not your past. You are the awareness that contains them all, and therefore you are untouchable. Comment below, "I am untouchable." Write it as a seal upon your transformation. Let it echo across the screen like a vow between you and the self. Because from this moment forward, no shadow can consume you, no pain can define you, no chaos can break you. You are whole, you are awake, you are everything the darkness tried to bury and failed. If this truth resonated deep within you, if you felt the pull of something ancient remembering itself, then like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications. Because your awakening is not ending here, it's only just begun.